Call this meeting of the GP&A Committee to order. And I will ask matters from closed session. We dealt with received a pardon? Not there. Oh, sorry. Okay, I'll deal with a moment of silence first. Please stand. Thank you. Please be seated. We had a session of a closed session before this public meeting, and we discussed labor relations and employee negotiations. And we also discussed the fence viewer position appointments. And I'll be looking for a motion, please, that Andrew Williamson and Greg Anderson be appointed as fence viewers for the remainder of the 2018 to 2022 term of council. And they shall continue their appointment until their successors are appointed. Could I have that motion, please? Councillor Watt and Councillor Brown. Questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the nature thereof? Councillor Guido?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When we get to section 8.2, the BIA budget, my husband is a property owner in the geography of the BIA, and I will not be voting on the budget.
Thank you. That is noted. Any other pecuniary? Councillor Brown?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 9.2.2, driveway apron patching and paving. I have done business with one of the bidders involved there, so I'm going to recuse myself from that.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, moving on. Are there any announcements from council and staff? And I will start out with an announcement about the COVID-19 virus. On February the 29th, the Ontario Ministry of Health confirmed 2 cases of COVID-19 in 2 individuals that presented at Ajax Pickering Hospital's emergency department. Lakeridge Health implemented their protocols, and the married couple, one of whom traveled to Iran, were tested by the emergency department team and discharged. They are currently at home in self-isolation and being monitored by the Durham Region Health Department. The province indicates that the risk to Ontarians is low. Durham Regional Health reminds residents to reduce the spread of germs by frequently washing hands with soap. Cough or sneeze into your sleeve or inside elbow. Avoid touching your face, and clean and disinfect high-touch areas. Travelers who have returned from mainland China, Hong Kong, Iran, Italy, Japan, Singapore, and South Korea should monitor for signs and symptoms like cough, breathing difficulties for 14 days after leaving the area of travel, and contact their health provider if they experience symptoms. And it's recommended that you contact by phone ahead of time of going into a emergency facility. Out of an abundance of caution, staff will be preparing an essential services plan to maintain those services should this situation develop further, in other words, a pandemic. All levels of government and health partners are working closely with each other to manage and monitor the situation. Given the evolving global circumstances, residents are encouraged to stay informed by regularly reviewing credible information sources from Durham Regional Health and the Ontario Ministry of Health. If you are concerned about symptoms or risk of COVID-19, connect with Durham Regional Health at 1-800-841-2729. Call Telehealth Ontario at 1-866-797-0000 and contact your family physician or local health team. And again, please contact by phone before visiting any urgent care facility. Thank you. Any other questions? Any other announcements? Councillor Watton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to announce that Rotary will be hosting the Rotary Gala on April 25th at Royal Ashburn Golf Club. It's $125 per person, and it's usually a sellout crowd, so if you're interested, please let me know. Thank you.
Always well attended by council, so please consider it. Councillor Kiesebrink.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to say a huge thank you to our Chief Mark Burney and our fire department, and also the fire departments in Uxbridge and also Clarington, who responded. Over 40 firefighters responded in Blackstock. It was a really difficult evening, and people were filming video from their porch and their deck. The fire was so close, and there's so much appreciation in the community for the hard work of the first responders and people putting their lives on the line to work together to save people in Blackstock, and we just really want to say how much we appreciate that.
It's incredible how they managed to save the adjoining properties. Very well done. That's right. Thank you. Any other announcements, Councillor McDougall?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to announce that the Purple Woods Maple Syrup Festival will be going on from March 13th until April 9th this year. And if you don't make it to Purple Woods, there's I know Willow Tree has one, and I'm not sure. I think Dogwood Acres may also have one as well. So please
That's
get
great.
out and enjoy
Signs
your
of spring.
Yes.
Good
Thank you.
stuff. Any other announcements? Any announcements from staff? Director Coleman?
Thank you, Mayor Drew. First of all, I'd like to thank the Public Works and Park staff who have worked very, very long hours this winter. It seems to snow every weekend. They've had very few days off this winter. And last Thursday and Friday, there was a particularly large storm, and they worked very long hours trying to make sure everybody could get around the township well. And they worked on the weekend as well to clean things up after the storm. I'd also like to talk about the speed limit survey that's currently on the website. One of the biggest concerns we get from residents is about speeding within the township. So we're doing a study about speed limits, and we have on the website right now a survey, and we're asking people to tell us about whether we should lower our default speed limits or other methods we can use to help improve compliance with the speed limits. And we've had an amazing response so far. We've had 320 surveys completed. It'll be on the website until March 15th, so if you have concerns or thoughts about speeding, I encourage everyone to fill out the survey.
Thank you, and I'm glad you brought up about our workers who kept our roads and sidewalks clear. I know that I believe that they maxed out their hours, and as soon as they could, they were right back at it, and they did an incredible job. And just a reminder to everyone to keep your storm sewer areas cleaned out because there's mild weather all this week. Fortunately, it will get down cold at night, so it'll slow down the flooding, but we could get flooding unless those storm sewers are allowed to gather the water. So thank you very much. And also a reminder that it is the responsibility of the homeowners to make sure their sidewalks are clean. We do a lot of work, our employees do a lot of work to do some of the sidewalk routes, the more frequently used ones, and but it is the responsibility of the homeowner to keep your sidewalks clean. Thank you very much, and please pass along our appreciation to the staff. Any other announcements from staff? Seeing none, our first presentation. It is my pleasure to bring forward Terry Gatchell. And I have the privilege of recognizing Terry as he retires from the township. I know that all of us, especially the staff in the Public Works area, are sad to see Terry retire. However, it's an exciting time for Terry as he enters his new chapter. Terry has worked for the township for the last 22 years, starting as a Public Works operator and moving up to the roads manager. He is known for his good nature, as well as being a hardworking, dedicated member of our team. Terry, I've said this before and I'll say it again, your smile and sense of humor were appreciated and will be missed. Congratulations, Terry. Enjoy your well-deserved retirement. Please come forward. For this photo op, council will come along here and
contrary.
Thanks, Paul. Trying to get rid of the shine. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much. Congratulations. Say thanks, Paul, for everything.
Thanks again.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Don't be a stranger, Terry.
Thank you very much.
The next presentation is Brigitte McLeod, the Chair of the Port Perry BIA. Welcome, Brigitte. Press the button for the little red light so we can hear you.
Okay, so I'm here to present the BIA budget and to answer any questions you might have about the BIA budget, which was passed by a vote of the membership at the annual general meeting earlier in February.
Is there anything you'd like to highlight on the budget?
I would like to note that we have accumulated surplus from several years of not having staff on hand. And so the members voted at the AGM to not increase the BIA levy, to keep it at the level it was last year and the year before, I believe, and use surplus funds to make up the difference in our budget. So the levy stays the same. The overall budget increases to $145,866, but because we have a surplus accumulated, we can take $20,000 from that surplus and use it towards our programs.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Brigitte? Councillor Keisebring.
Thank you. Hi, Brigitte. I was just wondering, where you have the sponsorship for events as $2,000, is that, I would think of sponsorship as a revenue, that's an expense the way it's listed. Could you just clarify what that's for?
So thank you. Sponsorship for events is where another group, not the BIA, presents an event in the BIA area and asks for funding, and we give them funding. So an example would be, we have in the past several years given $800 to pay for the petting zoo at the Easter egg hunt, or Brits on the Lake would give them some money, or we gave the Chamber of Commerce some money to help do Candlelight Walk this year.
Thank you. Further through you, Madam Mayor. So you're basically saying that that's the BIA sponsoring other third-party events. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Further questions? Councillor Watton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question, Brigitte, on the, I noticed on the 2019 as well as on the 2018, the park and gazebo budget, it says the expenses are $7,500. Can you just tell me what that is actually for? And I ask because I know that Rotary looked after the gazebo this past year. So
yes,
what is that 7,500 representative of?
So when we approached the lighting company Skedaddle to pay for to organize the lighting in the park, prior to this past year when the Rotary paid for it, it amounted to about $7,500. This year we this year Skedaddle billed the BIA for lighting the tree in front of the township offices instead of billing the township directly, as I understand it. I'm sorry the bookkeeper's not here for me to explain it in detail.
Ours is, and she's shaking her head.
No? Okay. So as I understand it, and I might have to correct this, so the township paid the BIA $7,500 to compensate for the park lighting. I believe that there was other things lit in the park besides the gazebo, and that's what that money covered. So it wasn't the tree in front of the township then, it was other trees in the park, not the gazebo. So the budget stayed the same. That's how I understand it.
But when I looked at the 2019 budget, the actual, it didn't show that expense. That's why I'm asking.
In the 2019,
Let me just double check it. I printed it.
In the 2019 budget, the budget was $7,500 in 2019 for township lighting support, and we spent $7,225.
Yes, okay. So that was with the gazebo and everything else. But then in 2018?
I don't have 2018 in front of me,
I
I'm sorry.
actually do, and it just says that it was $5,000. So all I'm not, I'm just
Yeah.
asking if we're getting more, if you are getting more for that 75 in the park.
Yes,
Okay,
more trees,
right.
yes.
That's what I wanted,
Okay,
basically.
sure.
Thank you.
I knew it involved more trees, I had to
Okay.
think about which trees.
Counselor Keesebring?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. How did I know we have a different carriage company that we're working with now from before. How did the carriage rides go this year, and what's the company, is that working well?
It was phenomenal. The service is so good, and the fellow that does it is thrilled with the response. There's often quite a lineup to take a carriage ride, and then there were 2 bad weather days where we said, don't do the rides, it's not a good day to do it, and he came on Christmas Eve and did carriage rides on Christmas Eve. It was superb, really. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, that's a wonderful service. Counselor Brown?
Through you, Madam Mayor, thank you, Brigitte, because I know I have some, given that I've done this for a year now, I have some idea of how hard you work and what it takes to put this stuff together. I know that you've broken down in marketing and promotion, you've broken down $31,875. I know there was some discussion about that, so how did you break it down?
So it is broken, you can see it on that, if we change the view of that, you could see more of that budget. But we do have a really great marketing subcommittee who looked at how we were spending our money, and we're shifting away, spending less on traditional print and doing more digital, which is working really well for us. So it works out to be approximately $800 a month on digital ads, a little bit less on print. And traditional print includes like tourism guides, magazine advertising, that sort of thing, local paper. We do desperately need some more up-to-date photography, so we're going to pay $1,500 to have like current photos taken of the downtown area, which of course would be useful for the tourism committee as well, right? And videography too, because we don't really have any great little marketing videos. And then we have broken down into event marketing. So spring, summer, we don't know what event that's going to be yet, and Christmas, we spend quite a bit on marketing Christmas.
Okay. Counselor Brown?
And just subsequent, if I may, and thank you through you, Madam Mayor, the $9,000 for the part-timer at the tourism building is not in this budget, is that correct?
No, it's not in the BIA budget because last year when we came, the Chamber and the BIA came together to ask for that funding. We decided that somebody had to administer it, and the Chamber of Commerce was designated to receive the money and then pay out the wage of that person.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Counselor McDougall?
Thank you. Thanks for bringing your budget forward. Quick question. The park gazebo area, is that inside of the BIA area? The
Yes.
Palmer Park?
Yeah.
Okay, because I just thought it was bounded by Water Street to Simcoe Street, north to Mary. I wasn't sure.
Well, one of the reasons why the BIA started lighting the park is because it looks so good. And as I understand it, the park is in the BIA area, but you know what? Now that you're asking me that, I don't have the map, so I can't tell you 100%.
Okay, no worries. I just thought I'd ask. Further through, Madam Mayor, question is, I see you have a line item for rent on the budget.
Right.
I think when you came forward last year, we talked about accessibility to the BIA offices with regards to a ramp and a washroom.
Right.
How is that going?
That is the Mississaugas that own the building are still committed to doing that, and I understand that that's happening this spring. I don't have a date, but I know that that's supposed to happen very soon.
Okay, thank you.
Your boundary does go across Water Street.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Further, Councillor McDougall?
Sorry, thank you, that's all, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I'll be looking for a motion. Councillor Brown?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the motion that the delegation by Brigitte McLeod, Port Perry Business Improvement Area Board be received, and that the 2020 BIA budget provided by the BIA Chair as approved at the BIA Annual General Meeting on February 11th, 2020, in the amount of $145,866 be approved.
Thank you. Did you include in that it be received? I think you did, didn't you?
Yes.
Seconded by Councillor Kiesebrink. Questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much, Brigitte, and thank you for your good answers
Thank you.
and for all the work that you do. Next item on the agenda is a presentation by Jack Doak and Elizabeth Werner, and that's the Port Perry Lakefront Farmers Market. And the report is on page 5. Welcome. Is your light on? Red light showing?
Oh, okay. Hi. As you know, last year, the farmer's market asked to relocate from the parking lot to where we are on the map, well, not exactly as we are on the map. And it was a pilot project. And during the course of the year, we polled the vendors and talked to the vendors, and they would like to stay in the general area, but just reconfigure a little bit, come up closer to the intersection of Queen and Water, where they're more continuation. There's not a gap between the market and the rest of the downtown. So we're asking that we once again come and get approval to be reconstructed, reconfigured. And in discussions with the staff, because of the waterfront reconfiguration and all the stuff that's going on, they want us to continue to be a pilot project
For a year.
for another year.
Yeah. And you're in agreement with that?
That's fine. Yeah.
That's good. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, don't think so.
Jack? No?
Sure, but
Get an opportunity to speak, I'll speak. As you all know. We really would just like to thank everybody for participating in our pilot. It went very well. Elizabeth has done an amazing job as a manager, and she's added vendors, and the feedback has been nothing but positive all summer long. Just to clarify, we thought about doing this last year, but there was conversation about, if you look at the drawing, spot number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down that row, the original thought was that the grade was too steep as you came off of that entrance. But the vendors felt that they could work comfortably with the grade, and by moving it a little farther closer from a visual to Queen, we feel that there's a natural visual extension of the shopping on Queen Street to see the farmers market sooner. And that's why the idea of moving closer to the street is desired this summer.
Thank you. Well, congratulations on an excellent farmer's market last year. Yeah, it was really good, so.
the mayor attended well.
Yes, I did.
Sorry, and our goal is Uxbridge just won Farmers Market of the Year,
Oh, well, you guys got to do
Well,
it.
that won't be for
so
long.
we have to step it up a little.
Thank you, and I understand you've met with staff, and staff is in agreement with this configuration, and it can all work. Well, that's great. Congratulations again. And the feedback that you received, that was from both visitors and the vendors? Okay, thank you. Any questions from council? Councillor Watt and then Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And first off, congratulations. I agree, it's an awesome location, so, and the more vendors you can get, the better. My question is, this shows 45. What was your actual number last year? Was it 45, or you have commitment for 45 this year, or you're just
Well,
being-
one thing is that's 45 10 by 10 spaces.
Oh, spots,
So some
okay.
vendors take 2 and 3 spaces, and I don't know if we'll fill all 45 spaces, but we'll probably fill at least 2/3 of them.
Awesome, great, thank you.
Councillor Brown.
Through you, Madam Mayor, a question for Mr. Doak, I guess. How are you gonna know when the Latcham Center is rented? Because I know you want to occupy part of that area, and so parking becomes a little bit trepidatious. So how are you gonna work it out with the Latcham Center people?
Well, Elizabeth and Shauna from the township, they speak on a regular basis, and they've put together a calendar of, they'll be aware of a calendar when the Latcham Center is rented.
Okay, and just one subsequent question. Is there something more to this in the future? Do you have plans to expand or do something different? Is there a 2 or 3 year plan that way, or are you just kind of working at it 1 year at a time?
Well, because of all that's going on with the whole lakefront, we're not sure what's going to happen, so we're just kind of waiting to see kind of how it all works out.
Thank you.
Councillor Guido.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The community table, do you want to try turning your microphones off? Oh, there we go. Sorry. The community table that you offer at the farmers market, what was the usage last year? Was it always occupied by some organization?
It wasn't occupied every week, but it was, I'd say, probably at least a third of the time somebody was in there. Sometimes our sponsors used the tent, but it was up from previous years. We increased, and this year I'm contacting even more people. So.
Thank you very much. And I think I communicated this at was it the tourism committee meeting that you were at, that I'm so appreciative of the youth and the youth table that is there. I bought coffee beans, and the entrepreneurship that we're promoting through the Brock Youth Center and just through the farmers market is amazing. Seen as though, and this may be a question for staff, seen as though this is now a pilot project for its second year, the sign that they have, which was for temporary purposes until it became a permanent, if permanent, does that mean the sign can stay as is, or do they need to apply for a permanent sign permit?
Who, Kevin? Director Heritage?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through to the councillor. We will continue looking at what was posted last year, the temporary sign. Since it's a pilot project this year, we will look at a temporary sign as well.
Okay, thank you. Any, Councillor Keysbrink?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Elizabeth and Jack. I'm really, really excited about the farmers market. Because we are looking at our waterfront and trying to create sort of our future picture of what that could look like, I want to come back to Councillor Brown's question, because I think it's a really important one. Rather than waiting to see, Lance, rather than waiting to see what happens, we want to be proactive and find out what you would like to see, because part of that's what the whole community is doing, is working together to build that foreseeable future. And if you look at, competing with Uxbridge and getting our award, what would be the ideal needs that you would have for the growth of the farmers market? What would you like to see in the waterfront? And you may not know that now, but if you could perhaps give us that information for consideration in that total big picture. I think it's really important. Since we're going to look at the whole thing and shuffle things around anyways, it would be really nice to know what would be your in a perfect world, what would be your asks for the farmers market? What would be your long-term growth needs? Things like that. I think that's an important question to still answer. Yeah.
I would consider the farmer's market and this is what we talk at the board level, is that we want to be a permanent entity, that we're not, that the level of commitment and respect that the farmer's market gets and provides, just to remind people, you know, there's a lot of hardworking entrepreneurs that are taking every Saturday and showing up to a farmer's market and working really hard, loading in and loading out and showing up. That's half the battle. The fact that we've been able to work with town staff and work around some of the significant events that happen downtown, you know, like there was a conversation last year about the dragon boats or the Canoe the Nonquan, that can the farmer's market stay put and be interactive with both of those events rather than being, you know, relocated to Water Street. And right now, I think the only time that the farmers market will be relocated is during the Rib Fest. So to answer your question, I think that the one thing is that the farmers market is really very flexible. So hypothetically, if the Latcham Center came down and that you have this beautiful public space there, maybe that's where the farmer market lands. Or if somebody wants to move the farmer's market again up by the mill and there's a town square by the mill, maybe it lands on the town square on Saturday mornings. So I think the farmer's market and the vendors, the members, are very flexible to work with the town. They just want to be close to the water and close to Queen Street. And wherever they land, that's where they'll land. So.
Further through you, Madam Mayor, so in terms of future spaces, you've got the 45 marked in here, plus you've got another line. Is that number of spaces ideal, like looking into the future from a space perspective?
I think that growing the number of vendors will certainly get to a point where you can't have like 80 vendors. But I think that when you have a really good farmer's market, you're turning people away and you're keeping your really good ones, like really exciting vendors. I mean, Elizabeth works really hard in the summer to do like 5-week stints for people. But as the farmer's market grows and gets more popular and the quality of the vendor grows, you don't need 60 or 80 vendors. You need 45 really good ones.
One further question, if I may. When I was on vacation in Cancun, they had like a kind of a farmer's market concept there, and they had these booths that were pre-constructed. Is there any merit to having booths where the vendors just come and locate, and those booths are sort of like a garden-y type of feature that are there all the time, or is it better to keep it just generic like this so that you could have, you know, some people have a produce truck, some people have different, you know, where setting up their own table or their own display, you have your historic truck. So is there any advantage to thinking in any kind of permanent kind of booths looking into the waterfront moving forward?
Well, if somebody happened to come along with 8 little gazebo things that could be used by the farmer's market every once in a while, that might be a good idea.
Any other questions? Councilor McDougall.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for last year's farmer's market. It was quite pretty down on the waterfront, and I enjoyed Tall Boy Coffee Roasters with his bicycle in and coming in with my bike and my paddleboard and grabbing a coffee after. And as well, I know, excuse me, the sorry, I'm looking at Carol, it was the survey for the active transportation located at the farmer's market, and they had a great response from all sorts of people who wouldn't have necessarily responded otherwise. A question just with regards to the agreement. It talks about a list of vendors that's to be provided with the township and a site plan. What's the split between farmers and non-farmers at the farmer's market?
To be considered a farmer's market, you have to have 51% farmers.
Okay.
So we're right around that mark.
And then is there a fee at the farmer's market to rent a booth?
Yes, there is a yearly fee, a 5-week fee, and a daily fee.
Okay. And then where does that money go back to?
That money goes into our market fund, where we pay our insurance, and we have to pay some of our buskers, and we pay for marketing for the market, and other things that come up. Me.
Very good. And then further, then was there any conflicts last year that you knew of at the Latcham Center, other than I participated in the Canoe of the Non-Quan, I didn't see it as a conflict, but anything else?
Shauna didn't, and weren't aware of any that came up. Every month she sends me a list of the rentals, and then I put pylons out and save parking spots with a note saying for rentals, and they were never moved, so I don't think anybody comes during that time, but it could change, but we just keep marking the spots.
Very good. And just, I think this is a further through, Madam Mayor, question maybe back to Carol, but in terms of emergency access through to Latcham Center, there's no concerns there for fire department?
Director Coleman?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, no, everything seemed to work out well last year for that.
Okay, very good. That's all, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ross?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just want to thank both of you for all your hard work on this. I know last year showed the legitimacy of the farmers market in Port Perry, and it, raised the game big time. So it was fantastic to see, and I think we're all excited for next year. I know last year there was a sponsorship program that went on. Can you speak to that, if there's anything set up for the year coming up?
Yes, we're looking for sponsors.
Now's your time to plug it, okay.
The idea is that the farmers market didn't want to just sort of be a standalone thing. They wanted to feel that they're part of something bigger. So we spent some time walking Queen Street and inviting the shop owners on Queen Street to sponsor a Saturday at the farmers market. So for example, Harrington's could sponsor the farmers market, and in the community booth or the farmers market booth, they could hand out, coupons for 2-for-1 meat pies, if you will. Nutty Chocolatier participated last year. The Old Flame participated. And so we're just inviting different vendors along Queen Street and it was inexpensive. It was like a $200 sponsorship, and they could have a tent there and they could promote themselves as well.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions or comments? Did you have your hand up? Did you have your, no, okay. Sorry. Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. And that will be the next item actually that we're dealing with, unless it's approved as part of the consent agenda. Thank you very much. And again, congratulations. Can I have a motion, please, that the delegation by Jack Doak and Elizabeth Werner, Port Perry Lakefront Farmers Market be received? Councillor Kiesebrink, Councillor Watton, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, we're now moving to the consent agenda. Are there any polls? I have 9.2.2 polled because of Councillor Brown's conflict. Any other polls? Can I have a motion, please, that the reports and the recommendations be approved of the remaining? Sorry, you have a poll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, could I pull a 9.2.3?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so 9.2.1 and 9.2.4. Councillor Dougall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I pull 9.2.4?
Can I have a motion, please, that we approve 9.2.1? Councillor Guido and Councillor Ross. You guys are really quick off the mark today. Okay, 9.2.2, Councillor Brown has conflict. So I just need a motion on 9.2.2. That's the driveway apron paving and patching contract. Oh, did I not take a vote on the 9.2.1? Okay, sorry. We didn't vote on 9.2.1. All those in favor? Thought we did. Okay. For somebody who's taking the minutes and doing everything, good call. Okay. So 9.2.2, I have Councillor Guido and was it then Councillor Ross? Yeah. Questions or comments?
Okay.
Councillor Giesring.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just wondering, the two contractors, Springside and Paveco, were both quite similar compared to so many of the other ones. And I'm just wondering, is the discrepancy, like the significant difference in pricing, would it be, are they more entrepreneurial based, so their costs are less? I'm just wanting to make sure that the quality of what we're getting is not going to be compromised by the significantly reduced price. So I just wanted to ask that question if I could, Director Coleman.
Director?
Through your Madam Mayor to the councillor, I don't know how the firms are set up. I do know that we asked for references from the firms, and we contacted the references for Springside, and they were Uxbridge and Romera, and they were both good references. And we also will have quality control in place. So the asphalt they're putting down is based on an Ontario provincial standard, and we can take samples of that asphalt and make sure it meets it. And it's not unusual to get a wide range of prices when you're dealing with a relatively small contract. It's approximately 1 day of work every month or so. So it's not a larger contract where you might see a tighter pricing for it. So it depends on where they're located, what type of work they do, if they're already doing work in the area, so it's cost effective for them. So there's a lot of factors to come in play of how they price it.
Further through you, Madam Mayor, I was reading some of the reviews for Paveco, which seems to be entrepreneurial. He seems to be a gentleman who kind of spearheads and does a lot of the work directly. There's not a lot of price difference between the two. I couldn't find much in the way of reviews for the lowest one, and I'm just wondering, in addition to checking references, were reviews a part of the consideration in terms of how we make our selection?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, based on our procurement bylaw, if a project goes out as a tender or a quotation, it's based on the lowest bidder that can meet the minimum requirements for the project. So we just went with the lowest bidder, we checked the references, we were satisfied that they can do the work, so it goes to the lowest bidder in this case.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And if I might add, could you comment on the specs? You've got some very definite specs on this type of project, so that we've we've got all the checks and balances. That they have to have a quality. It has to be so thick. Blah 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 blah. And if they don't meet those specifications, then we take action. Is that correct?
Yes, Madam Mayor, that's correct. So, like I said, it has to follow a standard. It has to be a minimum 50 millimeters thick for driveways. And if they don't, we would make them go back and redo it. And if they continually have poor quality, we could end the contract and go with another contractor.
Okay, thank you. I think that makes us all feel a little bit better. Councillor McDougall?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Director Coleman. It would have been possible for us to part out all of these little portions as individual jobs. Is that correct? Or is it typical that we bundle them all together?
Through your Madam, in the past we haven't done a contract for our quotation for it. We've just contacted one contractor that we knew that did the work, and so by parceling it together as one contract, I think that's partially why we receive better pricing.
So through you, Madam Mayor, so we've most likely received a significant amount of savings by bundling all this work together and then putting it out together.
Through your Madam Mayor to the Councillor, by bundling it and for asking for competitive prices. When you go just ask one contractor for a price, he's not going to sharpen his pencil as much.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Kiesbrink?
One more question. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Do we have direct work relationship with any of these particular vendors? I guess maybe that's not a good question. The one that with Springside, have we ever worked with them before on any other projects?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, I have no experience working with Springside before, so.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? We have a motion on the floor by Councillor Guido, seconded by Councillor Ross. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. That's it. No, wait. 9.2.3. Councillor Cusabrink, you pulled that. A municipal alcohol policy update. Page 15.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To Manager Shauna, there is a reference, I did have the specific pages and numbers written down and then on a piece of paper, and then I walked out the door without that piece of paper, so I apologize. But there's a couple of places in the policy that reference double shots, and it references shooters. Shooters by definition is a shot. The way that the policy reads, to me, it's a little bit unclear, as if it's saying you can do shots but not double shots. But meanwhile, it also says you can't do shooters, which is a single shot. So I'm wondering if we should clarify the terminology. I don't know that, like, that could just have been in the policy for a long time. I appreciate that when you brought the changes forward, the way that you brought it forward, it has the little lines and shows exactly in the documentation where the changes are. Thank you for that. It's so much easier to read when you're looking at a large document. So as an aside, thank you for doing that. But I'm just wondering if we could potentially just clear up our alcohol policy and just simply say, I think everybody knows what a shot is, and just simply say, we don't do shots or shooters, and just leave it at that and take out the word double. Is that something that we could do?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. First, that's JP, Director Newman, that wants the policy written with the track changes on it, so I can't take any credit for that. And secondly, I don't see an issue with that one about changing the. So just to clarify, where it says in sale of alcohol, double shots. And then further up there says shooter, so we just keep that consistent with no double shots.
So my ask is, could we just throughout the document use the same terminology and only refer to shot and shooter? And then that way it's going to be very clear that it could, the way it reads now, it's almost like you can't do a double shot, but you can do a shot, but you can't do a shooter. Yes. That's very confusing. So I think just say no shots, no shooters.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we can make that change.
Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to Council. I was involved with updating this, so that's why I'm going to comment here, is the intention is that there's not to be any shots and there's not to be any doubles of any of those hard liquor drinks either, regardless of whether it's being mixed or not. So that's what the intention is. If that's not clear, we can certainly look at clarifying that, but the intention is no shots and no doubles, regardless of whether the double is a shot or not, or if it's mixed with something else. That's the intention.
If I could, a lot of the terminology would be a neat drink, so neat would be like straight without. I'm wondering if we should add that, just say no shots, shooters, or neat drinks instead.
Go ahead.
The intention is not to not have neat drinks. The intention is not to have doubles. So we can't serve, and then this is in accordance with we can't promote sort of excessive drinking. That we won't do doubles, even if it's mixed with something else. I understand that to be the intention. So no shots, which is just on its own, as we understand a shot is, and no doubles of any hard liquor. So that's under 9.10. So that's the intention, but if it's not clear, then we can certainly clarify that further.
So then could we just say no shots and no doubles, as opposed to double shot? Or maybe it doesn't matter then?
we can certainly take a look at that wording and clarify it. Now that we have that comment back, we can certainly look at that again, absolutely. This is obviously just the draft, and the bylaw will come forward in final version at the council meeting at the end of the month. So when we bring it forward at the bylaw, finalized bylaw at that time, we can certainly look at that.
Further?
Thank you. And one further question. We're taking out the appendix, and we're taking out reference to Appendix A because it's redundant, because people are already filling in the special occasion permit information in the application itself. But I'm wondering if we should still leave reference to it, because part of what the Appendix A covered was it's not in front of me here. Thank you. Yeah, so part of what it covered was, is the fact that is this statement that they've received the policy, they've read it, they understand it, they understand if there's an infraction that we are not obligated to still host their event. So I recognize that we don't need to have them fill out the same paperwork twice, but I'm wondering if we can still reference it in the policy, because it's part of what gives us the power to potentially pull this event if it's not conducted properly.
Mr. Clerk?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to Council. Manager Cornish can probably add to this if I miss anything, but what you're seeing is it's actually the other way around, as in everyone who has an event in our facility has to sign a facility rental agreement, and that wording is in the facility rental agreement, so it's duplicated there. So it says that you have to comply with this policy, opposed to the other way around, but they have to sign that rental agreement, which gives us that authority that if they don't follow the policy, then we can pull that booking and basically cancel the event. So it's just the other way around. But we do have that covered.
Okay, anything else? Councilor Guido?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just back on Section 9, in respect to Councillor Kieserbrink's question about shot and shooters. Typically at these events, the bartenders pour a shot into the glass and give it to the purchaser to mix on the side. Yeah. So in theory, we are providing a shot of alcohol to the patron. I'm assuming this would mean I can't have a Jell-O shot in the back and sell that, or a B-52 or whatever other shot. Is that the intention?
Mr. Clerk?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, Council. That would be correct. It would be something that singles only in terms of a mixed drink.
Right.
And not shots, as you had mentioned a couple.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Further, Councilor Guido? Okay, Councilor McDougall?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Shauna. I understand that through you, Madam Mayor, that we owe Mr. Doble from Greenbank some thanks for updating this document. It's been quite some time since the policy was looked at. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the Council. Councillor, yes, Mr. Doble gave us many suggestions for the updated policy.
Very good, thank you. One other question through you, Madam Mayor. Just with regards to, we're removing the Scugog Shores Heritage Center and Archives from the list of possible venues that we could possibly have licensed. Last year I had certified a tent that was at the Sharon Temple for a wedding. I'm just curious if we remove this from the list of possible venues, if somebody did want to rent that location for a festivity, would they not be allowed to have alcohol at it? Should we remove it?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the Councillor. So the Scugog Shores Heritage Center and Archives is speaking about the location up at the arena. Are you? Yep. So if you're wondering about the Museum Village, it is not a location that we've identified. Well, yes, under Scugog Island. Scugog Shores Museum would be a permitted use, eligible area. So the Heritage Center is the location where the youth center is now.
Yeah, I know.
Very good. Thank you for clearing up that misunderstanding.
Anybody else? You have further? Anybody else? Councillor Watt and then Councillor Brown.
Thank you. Just a small correction that Nestleton Park is called Cartwright Fields.
Counselor, is that it? Counselor Watton? Counselor Brown?
Through you, Madam Mayor, and to the manager, 2.1.2 on page 16, you talk about liability insurance up from 2 to 5 million as per the insurance programs. Can you tell us what that means to us in terms of cost?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. So insurance rates are based on the number of people in attendance for an event. So the $2 million liability, for an example, if an event was holding 75 people, $2 million liability with alcohol would be $30. These are estimated to 2019 prices. And if it was 150, I'll finish my thought. 75 people for $2 million alcohol liability, $30, and for $5 million, it's $60. So we're looking at double the cost for an event that holds 150 people. The $2 million alcohol liability would be $75, and for $5 million, $150.
Okay, and just one more, if I may, and through you, Madam Mayor. Page 17, comments from the hall board members have been considered. Can you give us an example of what some of those comments might have been?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. So like Councillor McDougall mentioned, Mr. Doble had a few suggestions. We did send it to all hall board members, hall board chairs, but Mr. Doble sent them back. So a couple examples that we did include was he asked in section 8.1 to have the designate added to be present, either the permit holder or the designate. And that is in line with the AGCO's regulations. In section 8.2, Mr. Doble suggested that we include that after the event workers' duties have been completed, that they're able to consume alcohol. And we've included that. And another example is that we've increased the number of drink tickets purchased at one time from 3 to 4, and that it's aligned with what we've heard back about private events. Some not included, not many, but one was he mentioned how often people ask to purchase rounds of drinks for the table. So one person comes up and wants to purchase the round of drinks for the entire table, and staff were trying to discourage rounds and to keep those drinks to 2 drinks per person at a time. And one other one that he mentioned also just advised us that the provincial law allows drinks to be sold until 2 a.m., but we kept it at 1 a.m. as most of the facilities are staffed, and our staff schedule ends at 2 a.m., so it wouldn't give us time to clean up or tear down.
And one final, and I apologize because I think I said the last time it was one final, but this is the real one final. If I'm at an event and I want to purchase a pitcher of beer for me and my buddies at the table, I'm not allowed to do that, I don't think. Right?
For you. JP?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to council, that's correct. I believe it's the same section, section 9.10 on your screen there. Double shots of hard liquor, pitchers of beer are not permitted.
Right, okay, thank you.
Okay. Further, Councillor Watton.
Madam Mayor, other than Mr. Doble, has anyone else commented on this?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, no.
And how long ago did this go out to the respective hall boards, and or the hard copy go out to them, and what is the cutoff date for response?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. So we met with the hall board chairs last month to discuss the insurance. It was briefly mentioned there, and then early last week the report was sent out to hall board members for their comments.
And further to that, how many hall board members attended the insurance one? Were each of the halls represented, or what was the response to that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, there were 2 hall board chairs not in attendance at the insurance meeting, but one from Utica Hall met with me last week.
Okay, anything else? Okay, could I have a motion, please, that the report be received and that a bylaw to adopt the municipal alcohol policy substantially in the form appended as attachment 1 to report CORP 2020-06 be brought forward for adoption. Councillor Kiesebrink, Councillor McDougall, questions or comments? All those in favor, question? Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, in light of the lack of response to date, if we should be moving it forward at this point, or if we should wait until we have, give the other hall boards a chance to respond. I'm asking the question.
Okay, JP?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through to council. Certainly, if we receive any questions between now and the agenda going out for the council meeting, we would certainly include any of that. I'm sure that Ms. Cornish can reach out again to the whole board chairs and just double check if they had any comments or concerns. But certainly, anything between now and the end of sort of council meeting at the end of the month, we can certainly write another report if there's substantial changes, or just mention it to council when it's brought back.
So we put a deadline on
I was
that?
going to say, so could we put a deadline on that?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Ms. Cornish can certainly reach out and just advise when the deadline is.
Okay, anything further? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. And 9.2.4, Councillor McDougall?
Yes, that's my poll. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not sure exactly who to direct this to, but probably I think the CAO might be best. But I might start by, in this time of financial considerations when we're looking at budgets and tight budgets and what we're approving, it might be easy for one to look at our conference and meal expenses and say that that's excessive and perhaps council doesn't need that. I'm going to speak on behalf of myself. Prior to being a councillor, I was with the Regional Trails Committee, and I attended a bike summit as part of that. After attending that summit, I found out that the Township of Scugog was nowhere within the provincial plan for the provincial cycling network, at which time I was pretty upset, and I contacted who I needed to contact, and I drafted a letter that came to council, which received council's support. That letter then allowed the redrafting of the provincial cycling network to include us, which is no small feat. That resulted in cycling lanes to be included from here to basically over to Nestleton Waters, which will include an accessible shoulder both sides of the road all the way to Caesarea. My estimates on that would be it's about 11 kilometers, and both sides of the road would equal almost a whole road. That's about $1.9 million times 11 kilometers. That's a $22 million investment that will be made in Scugog by the province by attending a conference. If we do not go to those conferences, we will not get in front of the ministers and the people who will be making these decisions. So although those expenses might seem excessive to some people, it's in my opinion that it's important that we go to these and represent and ask those questions and get in front of the right people.
Thank you.
Any
Yes,
comment on that?
they're great education opportunities and networking opportunities that they're invaluable. I totally agree. Anything else on that? Would you like to make the motion to receive that report?
Yes, I'll make that motion, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, seconder? Councillor Ross? Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And now we're at correspondence. No correspondence, nothing, no notice of motion, no new business. 12.1 proclamations. And could I have a motion, please, that the proclamations be received? Councillor Brown? Councillor Ross? Questions or comments? Councillor McDougall?
Yes, I'd just like to make a comment that as a professional engineer that, and I'm sure Carol is as well, that Pi Day is a very important day to us. Thank you.
I think that's on a weekend this time, but last year we had representatives from UOIT, as it was called at that time, and they brought us a pie as well, so that was kind of nice. Yes, Pi Day. Hey, all those in favor? Did I get a motion, mover and a seconder? Yeah, I did, okay. All those in favor? That's carried. I know it was Ross and Wanton, I think. So, all those in favor. Okay, and now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Counselor Guido, Counselor Keasebring, all those in favor? That's carried. Will somebody kill that fly that's?